Alright, yeah, welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different, something we haven't done in quite a long time actually. We're going to be returning to Standard, and also something we haven't done in a long time, we're going to be killing our opponent until they're dead really quickly. We're going to be playing some Boros Aggro today. And more specifically, Boros Aggro with a modify style strategy to it. So the idea is, with Modify, Thundering Raiju will be the payoff for this deck. It's a 4-mana 3/3 with haste. Whenever it attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control. Then Thundering Raiju deals damage to each opponent, where X is the number of modified creatures you control other than Thundering Raiju. I hate that it's other than, but you know, is what it is. So what is a modification? Well, a modification is a creature that is equipped, has an aura attached to it, or has any kind of counter associated with it. In this case, it's going to be all +1/+1 counters for us. So if any of our creatures have a +1/+1 counter on them, Thundering Raiju is going to deal a little bit of extra damage on the attacks, which means if our opponent has a lifelink blocker, we might just be able to kill them with a Raiju trigger in that regard. So that's going to be how we're essentially playing around with the game. We're going to be going with as many creatures with counters as we possibly can, and also trying to balance that with the most aggressive creatures we could possibly find. So probably one of the most aggressive 1-drops in the standard format right now is hopefully in this year a 1-mana 1/2 with training. So whenever this creature attacks, if it attacks with another creature that has more power than it, it gets a counter on it, thus making it modified. And we can also then, later in the game, if it's relevant, pay 2 and a white to remove 2 counters from the from among creatures you control. I actually thought it was only Hiniship, but there you go. To destroy an artifact and enchantment. Never really played with this card, so it's I'm pretty sure I've never really played with half of these cards, so you know, it's all pretty new to me. We've also got Kamano faces Kakazan, I think. 1 mana, 1 mana for a Saga on Chapter 1, deals 1 damage to each opponent and each planeswalker they control. The Chapter 2 allows you to put a +1/+1 counter on the next creature you cast, thus making it modified, and then the Chapter 3 gives you a hasty 2/2 that says if a creature dealt damage this turn by a source you control would die, exile it instead, so it hates on graveyards, which is quite nice. We got Play with Fire and Royal Eruption as removal as well. Royal Eruption dealing 3 damage to any target, but if you kick it for 5, 7 mana total, you'll deal 5 damage instead, so a great way to close out the game, especially if you've flooded a little bit. We've also got Play with Fire, 2 damage to any target, and if you deal it to your opponent's face, you get to scry 1. So if we're on top decks and we're looking for that last piece of damage, instead of attacking our opponent's creatures, we might want to hit them in the face to see if we're going to draw a land, and if we are, throw it in the trash. We do have 2 copies of Bloodthirsty Adversary for these 8 cards. If you just play it for its 2 mana cost, you get a 2/2 with haste. But if you do the kind of kicker, air quotes, with this card, adding the extra 2 and red, you'll get a counter on it, thus making it modified, and then also get to exile an instant or sorcery with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard and cast it without paying its mana cost. So we get to rebuy the Play with Fire and the Royal Eruption with the Adversary coming in as a 3/3 with haste. So there's a lot of damage there as potential. Only running 2 copies of it though, because we only have these 8 copies of burn spells, and also we have Thalia in the deck to hate on Meathut Massacre, which seems like a card that we just cannot beat. So we want to be as aggressive as possible to beat Meathut Massacre, and that does involve taxing our opponent to buy ourselves an extra turn. So Thalia being a 2-mana 2/1 with First Strike makes it a really good attacker, but also making sure that Meathut Massacre can't be cast as efficiently is really great. The amount of times I've been a Meathut Massacre deck and Thalia's come down, and that's just meant that I've lost count of that, basically. So I really do find Thalia to be one of the best ways to hate on sweepers a lot of the time, especially when you only need to find an extra point or 2 of damage. That extra turn that you gain from taxing your opponent can make all the difference. Is another reason as well why I'm only going 2 adversaries, is because we do have to pay the 1 on the adversary trigger if we do rebuy some of these Play with Fires. I will say that I haven't really noticed Thalia being a big number with the Play with Fire and Royal Eruption, because I think the downside of not running this card is far higher than the downside of these being taxed by 1 point. which honestly isn't that big of a deal considering a lot of the times you're going to empty your hand in 3 turns, so all of your mana is just going to be dedicated to whatever's on the top of your deck, and if you can't cast Royal Eruption, then you're asking to lose. Luminarch Aspirant, I'm sure most of you know what this one does. Puts a counter on a creature you control during combat, and it's going to do that every single turn. We've got Reckless Stormseeker as well, another hasty creature. 3 mana 2/3 at the beginning of combat. You can give a creature +1/+0 and haste until the end of the turn. So you can, on the turn it comes down, turn it into a 3/3 with haste. Or if you play creatures in the future that don't have haste, like Hopeful Initiate, Thalia, Luminarch Aspirant, then you can give those the extra point instead to allow you to swing with those. We've got 4 Sunrise Cavalier, a 3 mana 3/3 with Trample and Haste. I think the Trample is the most relevant part about this card, honestly, because sometimes you need to close out the game and your opponent has blockers. You may notice that we don't really have much evasion in the deck. We've just got Play with Fire and Royal Eruption as ways to clear the board, but sometimes these aren't good enough, and therefore a 3/3 with Haste that could be a little bit bigger than that is going to be really nice. But it does also play around with day and night as well, so if we have Sunrise Cavalier as a top deck, we play a Cavalier out. Next turn, we have our worst draw possible, which is just like a land off the top that means that we don't do anything. Day becomes night, and then the Cavalier gets a counter on a creature that we control. So we still manage to get our creature to benefit a little bit from that. And also Stormseeker does have a nighttime side as well, giving +2/+0 and Trample and Haste as well. So we have a little bit of a benefit for running out of cards, though we're not obviously going to try and rely on that. I think the deck really speaks for itself. The mana base, it's got some Dead of the Bugbears in here. It's a nice way to close out the game, especially if your opponent swept the board. They need instant speed removal for it. We got 2 Sundown passes in here, just to smooth out the mana a little bit. They have been awkward in my time playing, but I don't know if they're incorrect because of that awkwardness. I think it's mostly if you have these in your opening hand and you only have 2 mana, that's when they're awkward, but every other occasion, I think I'm glad to have this card in my hand, or in my deck, should I say. We've got Soken-Zan, which allows you to channel and make 2 1/1s, which is pretty sweet. They have haste, so you can end step this one as well through a sweeper. And we've got Eiganjo as a little bit of extra removal, dealing 4 damage to an attacking or blocking creature that is, for the most part, uncounterable. So that's going to be the deck. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. If you do, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. And without further ado, let's get to it. This video is brought to you by the generous support of our wonderful patrons and channel members that you see here. If you'd like to support the channel and get access to cool content like sneak peeks, bonus videos, polls on future content, or access to a personal deck critique from myself every month, then hit the join button down below, or check out the Patreon link in the description. With all that said, let's get into the gameplay. Alrighty then, we're in, and awkward mana. We've only got 2 tap lands, basically, in this deck on turn 1, and we've got one of them. But I guess I'm going to keep this hand, because it is functional, technically. So we'll see how we go. It actually might mean that Kumano lines up with Reckless Stormseeker, funnily enough. Because we get to go boop and ping, play our land, and then next turn we get the counter, so it'd be a pretty big boy. Got an Eiganjo over there. Is it a mirror match? It very well could be. Alright, well, I'm going to play my lands. I think I am going to play my Stormseeker. I think I want this creature having a nice amount of toughness behind it, if it is the mirror match. Only got Eiganjo to worry about in that regard then. I guess a kicked Royal Eruption. Ah, it's runes. I remember runes. It was boring. Alright. Exile the Saga. This is going to go pretty well for us though, to be honest, because we get to go boop you. Our opponent's going to concede, I think, pretty soon, unless they can get a big old healing person in here. But they can't. And then 2 damage to any target to our opponent's face. We win the game. Alright. When in doubt, when you don't really like a matchup, end it quicker. Cool. On to the next one. Alrighty then, so, like last game, we only have 2 tap lands on turn 1, but we found both of them. This time we got a mountain though, so we can play the Kumano. It's going to lose its chapter 2 power, but... Maybe I'll just go Sundown Pass again. Do the same thing that we did last time. Because it worked last time. And Thundering Raiju definitely cares about that nonsense. So let's play Kumano. And we're going to play the mountain, so we've got Play with Fire open. Since this is now an untapped land. Up against like mono white. Looks like it. Alright. Let's let that resolve, then kill it. And then we're going to play Sunrise Cavalier, I guess. Is that true? This would be a 4-4. This could be a 3-3 with a 1-2 that doesn't do anything. I kind of like the idea of a 4-4 Trample Haste. Yeah, let's do that. If I can save the adversary, I think I would like to. Spellbinder, okay. Can push through that. Wouldn't be able to do that if we took a different line. So we're going to take my Raiju. That's a good card. Alright. So... I guess I'm going Aspirant into Initiate. And I think I'm just going to keep putting counters on the Cavalier. It could be a little bit of a bad idea if they've got Skyclave Apparition, but I'm assuming that Spellbinder is always going to make that trade there, which is something I'm okay with. Can destroy any artifact and enchantment if they play it now, because the Initiate will get a counter from the Aspirant plus the training trigger. So that's an option for us, but yeah, they did have the Apparition. Going to go after the Cavalier, makes sense. That would have been us on Raiju. So I think I'm just going to put a counter on the Initiate and swing for 2. We've kind of almost got them dead. Soon we'll have a 3-3 off this Apparition when they're forced to block with it. I don't know. I could be getting greedy with the adversary by not just playing it there and trading. Because eventually the cave's going to be live as well. Okay, they got a Redain. I just want to land. Just a land. That'd be nice. I like lands. Alright. Yep. 3-4. Send it. Ooh. Right, well, we're definitely going to make this trade to get the Apparition to give us a 3-3. And I think now we're just going to absolutely just empty our hand. If our opponent's going to give us an extra body on board and trade one of theirs away, we're going to do everything we can to fill the board up. That's a really good top deck for them. Now they've got a 5-3 with lifelink and a Vigilant 4-5. It's hard to see how I could win through that. And by hard to see, I think it means impossible to do. I guess what I could do is put a counter here so that I've got 2 things that could trade with the adversary, pass the turn. And then if I draw a land with the Raiju, then I'll hopefully be able to put counters all over the place. Apparition, that's hot and sexy. We hate that. We hate that on this channel. Oh yeah, they win the game. Ooh, it came down on the other side though. But I think because they played 2 cards, they're going to be able to just take some here with the Cathar. Yeah, that adversary is going to just like win them the game straight up. Okay. Finally get round to my Raiju, and then we're just going to attack like it matters. Oh yeah, I've got to put a counter on a thing, haven't I? Put the counter there, please. Whoa. Alright, next game. Alrighty then, we're in on the draw. Untapped lands galore. Yep, this hand's keepable. So we get to go turn 1, hold up and play with fire, or maybe just use it into Luminarch. Ooh. Maybe I just go with the commander then. I have changed my mind. So this way we get to go Aspirant, comes down as a 2-2, Combat makes it a 3-3. Pretty reasonable. It's going to be now or never, I think, for their removal. Pretty soon, at least. So, do they have a play with fire? That would be awfully convenient of you. Have you got it? Got Dragon's Fire. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Alright. This hand looks a whole lot more awkward now, because this Raiju doesn't have anything with... That's a blue land. We're playing against some, like, Tiamat Dragons nonsense. That'd be interesting. Alright, well, it's not my job to figure out what my opponent's doing. It's my job to end their entire career. So, let's hit them for 5 and pass the turn. If we draw a land, we'd be quite happy. This does put counters on things, so... That'd be nice. If they do nothing, then we'll get ourselves into a nice spot as well. We did draw the land, but this board state just became a whole lot awkward. A lot more awkward. Well, I'm going to ping apart one of the tokens, see if they want to crew in response. Because there might be something to do here. Based around that, because I could play Royal Eruption on Chariot post-combat and trade one of my creatures here. Or I could just play another Stormseeker and keep going. I feel like Chariot would get out of hand real quick. So I think I'm going to do this. I think they're going to block the Stormseeker, so that's why I'm putting the points on the Etching instead. Yeah, so... The little more obvious choice has sort of paid off there. Now we get to kill the Chariot. And hopefully they don't have another one, because that would be brutal. I have no double white cards, and I'm on top decks, so I'm not likely to ever see 2 white cards at the same time here. So we'll stick that on red. Yeah, I kind of have no idea what our opponent's actually playing. Gold Spam Dragon. And attacking me. Must mean they've got another Dragon's Fire then. We've got Prosperous Innkeeper to gain some life. That's spooky. We're at 14, so we're not at any risk of just, like, dying out of nowhere. So I think we're going to go Raiju, attack, put the counter on the Etching, because this thing only says other creatures with counters. Right, put a counter on a creature you control, then it deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of modified creatures you control other than the Raiju. Yeah, so... It's more damage to put it on the Etching, and obviously we're diversifying our threats a little bit here as well. Our opponent is potentially going to 1 here. I get the impression that they're going to actually take it. Yeah. Is there a world where I need to play this mountain? Probably not. Although me holding priority for so long just means that they know I've got a land in hand if they're paying attention. So I actually win on attack steps now with the Raiju. Unless our opponent kills it. So they've got to kill it. And then also kill me. Moonveil region. Okay. And they get 3 attacks. And they go back up to 5 mana as well. So I suppose they could get into a position where They're not just dead to my attack. And I'll be dead to theirs. So, do they have the answer that makes me not win the game here? That actually might just do it. I think it was just any creature, right? Ooh, Sunrise Cavalier. That actually might have been what I needed, maybe? I don't know. I'm thinking about the trampling being relevant here. So they go to 1. They can block the 4 here. And then I guess they have to single block. Yeah, I'm still dead, I think. I'm like 1 point short on the Sunrise Cavalier. What a shame. 1 point short. I guess maybe I've still got a chance. Again, they're still just dead to a combat trigger on the Thundering Raiju unless they can gain 2 life here. Or kill it. I do get the impression I'm dead, though. Yeah, another Innkeeper. Definitely makes things awkward. And removal? They're hovering. Okay, they're going to level up Ranger class. That must mean that last card is not that good, right? Because they would have just used it. Or maybe it's a gotcha card. They've now got to think about Sunrise Cavalier being an option. You look at the top card. Didn't see what they liked. If they attack, they lose. The greed. Oh, the greed. Do it. I guess it could be removal. Oh, 2 damage to any target. Well, that'll do it. Is there any reason not just fire this off? Yeah, they've got nothing. I'm going to do combat damage victory, I think. Let's get a Raiju win. Right there. Boom. Yeah, I could just ping them in the face. I was thinking maybe like they had possibly a negate or something like that. But even that wouldn't stop me from losing the game there. Yeah, I think that had to just be... That had to be, like, actually good on their turn, but it wasn't. I think this draw just basically solidifies my victory there. What a close game, though. That was pretty cool. On to the next one. Alrighty then, we're on the play. We've got reasonable mana. We've got spells we can cast. We've got an aggressive threat. So we're going to keep this one. Yeah, we just want to draw lands with this hand up to 4. Guess I'll play a Mountain and say go. Ooh. We got the New Capenna music here. Alright. Grixis. And Tenacious Underdog for our opponent. Right, well, when you do miss your land drops, play your other cards. So let's go ahead and do that. Hit you for 3. What's Grixis doing these days? Ah yes, Fable. I'm familiar with the Fable of Lemira Breakier. Do I want to kill that Fable? Oh, the Fable token, more specifically. Or do I want to just get, like, really aggressive and go with, like, Cavalier? I'll let them get really aggressive if I give them another treasure and probably a land drop. They can probably do a 2-spell turn. Whereas currently, if I kill this, it's maybe just a 1-spell turn, but I only play 1 card and I leave myself with not a growing threat. So I kind of feel like I'm just going to go Cavalier and let them have their treasure. I guess the real issue is, do they run Meat Hut Massacre? Because I'm pretty sure every deck in Standard runs Meat Hut Massacre. That would certainly be an issue of a card. And by allowing them having that treasure, I do allow them to get it going. There's a Kaito and an underdog into the graveyard. And their hand's not good enough. Okay. Fair enough. Well, assuming they attacked me, they would have 4 mana, then they could have 5 mana total, and a meat hook would sweep the aspirant away, which would be painful, but then I still get to keep my Sunrise Cavalier because we put the counter on it there. If they choose to do nothing, it goes nighttime and I get a counter, so that's not really great for them. And I have 3 damage to any target, guaranteed right here, and then I have another 3 damage haste here, or potentially even, I think this is 5 damage, right? With the number of modified creatures. Might even be more than that, actually, because I guess it's these are now modified, so putting the counters on them specifically isn't really necessary. So you could put a counter on the Raiju and make it a 4/4, and then hit for 2 there. So this would be attacking for 6, which is kind of nice. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. On to the next one. Alrighty then, on the play. This hand is good, so we're going to keep it. Get to go turn 1, red source, pass the turn with Play with Fire, ready to ping off anything that our opponent plays, if it's relevant. Shatter Skull Smashing for our opponent. Alright, let's start trying to build up this Aspirate. And then we got Sundown Pass next turn with double removal. Definitely want to kill the Blood Tithe Harvester. So, yeah, we'll just go ahead and ping that off right now. Attack for 3. Do wonder if I actually want to just, like, be mana efficient and Royal Eruption my opponent in the face. Next turn, I'm going to be wanting to go Raiju. So it's hard to say, really. This is, I think, a Meat Hook deck. So that's something I've got to concern myself with. I've got to kill them real quick before Meat Hook can get ahead of my creatures. I think with a Play with Fire... Yeah, I'll hold up Play with Fire for the turn, I think. That might just be better. Yeah, so I think this is the... Jund deck with Obnixilis in. Ranger class. So I can hit that with a Play with Fire. Thus clearing the board and making Ranger class not as good, and future Obnixilis kind of bad as well. Do not need to draw a land. In fact, if I draw any land at any point from here on out, it is a skip draw step, basically. The good news is that Obnixilis isn't very good at playing from behind. Got Riveteer's Charm, okay. Cool. Skip my draw step. I guess we'll just hold the Royal Eruption. They're going to get to crack that blood token to try and get back into this game. Dumping the lands, wish I could do that. Yeah, I might just lose now. That might be all it takes. I mean, really can't afford to be drawing several lands in a row for an aggro deck, where my opponent's not even at half their life down. Okay, well, we got a Raiju. This unfortunately only deals 3. Just gonna play my land, swing for 4. They can play land Meat Hook and get my Raiju killed here, but... Zaitora's Envoy gives it haste. That's spooky. Yeah, I might be dead. We'll see what this does. Yeah, that's gonna kill me, right? What could I even draw here? Maybe that could win me the game. Let's see if they block. It's my only hope is that they don't block here. Yeah, because I could have done 5 damage to my opponent's face if they didn't block. As it currently stands, this is going to be 5 on itself. This is 6 when pumped with the Ranger class, so either way, one of these is going to deal 6 damage to me. I think my only hope there was that they got cocky and didn't want to block, but they didn't, so on to the next one. Alrighty then, we play first, and our hand functions. We like when both of those things are the case, so we get to go turn 1, play our Hopeful Initiate, pass the turn. Can work up to destroying some artifacts and enchantments with that. One's got a Xander's Lounge. Alright. Probably means that they are a removal deck. And we'd want to remove things as quickly as possible, so... remove their face, that is. If it runs black, it's because Meat Hut Massacre's in the deck. That's what I've learnt about Standard. Maybe that's changed since I last played, but I doubt it. Alright, we are going to put a counter on the Aspirant, because if they do have Meat Hut Massacre, they could sweep my creatures on that turn. We don't want that to happen. Ooh, lose 2 life. I'd like to see that. Alright, we still get to protect our Aspirant and get in for some damage here. That was worth more than 2 damage to us, but I'm glad to at least have gotten it. Okay. Exile my thing. Top 3 cards of the library, put one into their hand. So the annoying part is that this is a good blocker that eats my Royal Eruption. We don't like that. That's a good draw. Alright, so I'm going to be able to deal 3 here. And then I'm going to play the Thalia. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to... let's see, Meat Hook now costs 3 to play for 0. So if I put the counter on Thalia, they can't X1 to get rid of Thalia with the Meat Hook. And it looks like their deck really hates Thalia, which is why we've got it in the deck. It's really not that big of an issue having Thalia in your deck non-bowing your removal spells, because the alternative is not having Thalia in your deck and your opponent sweeping your board and then your removal spells not mattering at all. So it's kind of a little bit of a non-bow, but it's kind of a necessary evil in the same way. So, yeah, pretty happy with that one, and we move on to the next game. Alrighty, on the draw. We've got turn 1 play with fire, turn 2 maybe Thalia or adversary. I guess it depends on how we're feeling about what our opponent's doing, what matters most. But I like options. Options work for me. White Source Go. Ooh, Cavalier. Yeah, that leans towards me playing Thalia next turn a little bit more. So they get an Aspirant. We get to kill it. So I guess they're on mono white. Which likely means this Thalia is not as good. I might just go, in that case, Bloodthirsty Adversary. Planning to go Kumanu Thalia. I want to use some of these non-creature things before Thalia comes down. Alright, so they got a Spellbinder. Assume you got to take the removal. Unless you're planning to make some trades here. Because I will go Kumanu Royal Eruption on my turn if they give me that option. Take the Kumanu. Okay. I mean, that does make my hand a little bit awkward. There's no doubt about that. I guess I'm going to attack and see if they want to trade. They do. So I'm going to play this one out so that I get a potential 4/4 with the Sunrise Cavalier. Or maybe a 3/2 First Striker. That one's hard to say. That's annoying. I suppose it could be worse. I mean, I could hold them back with a Sunrise Cavalier 4/4. And remove it later with Royal Eruption plus play with fire. I think them pumping out tokens isn't a big deal either. I'm going to attack them, even though they do get to attack back and make a token, because if they do have Skyclave Apparition, holding back for blocks isn't really going to do me any good. I can always removal spell things out of the way. Okay, so they're going to Wandering Emperor, kill my Cavalier, attack for 2. I guess it's attack for 3, right?
My judgment is fine.
They did not do any of the sort. In fact, it looks like they are planning to try and protect their Wandering Emperor, which isn't going to work.
Back to wandering.
Back to Wandering Emperor. Let's play Thalia, so they need a land in order to play their next Emperor. They got their land. Alright. That's the card I was a little bit afraid of. Thank God we've got the Royal Eruption for that. Definitely just get to eat that token. So, I'm going to murder the adversary, because if I don't, I'm going to lose. No life gain for you. Pass the turn again. Valkmira. Okay. So, 1 damage is prevented at all times. We've got to keep that in mind. I think what that means is I go Raiju, put counter on Thalia, attack with all. Yeah. Counter on Thalia, hit them for nothing. And they get a free block. Go to 12. Valkmira's going to be a pretty big deal. Intrepid Adversary again. No! Stop it! Ugh. I lose now. Every time this card turns up, I lose. Because even my 3 damage burn spells don't deal 3 damage anymore. They deal 2. And here I'm kind of nomboing with the Thalia. I mean, I guess I could do Aspirant, counter on Thalia, pass the turn. Now I've got first strike damage on the adversary, but if they draw Skyclave Apparition, I'm going to cry. Plus they've got some forced blocks here as well. I need to be able to pay the 1 on the Royal Eruption because of the Thalia, which I'm not going to be able to do anymore, because that's a really good top deck. Uh-huh. Tap me for 7. I need to triple block in order to kill that. I mean, do I just die? Could I... Would just dying make me happier? I think it would. I think I would much rather just die in this matchup and move on to the next game. There's no way I'm dealing 12. There's no window for it. Adversary is just a stupidly good card. Oh my god. Alright, on to the next one. Alright. We are going to keep this hand on the play. I'm going to lead off with Kumano faces Kyrgyzstan. In order to go, I think Thalia get a 3/2 first striker, I think will be really nice for us. I think it's much better than the Hopeful Initiate, which will get a counter at some point during its lifespan as well. We could even go Hopeful Initiate play with fire here, so it's not really a big deal. If we wanted to. I think I actually are more inclined to go Sunrise Cavalier, because this is just an absurd amount of aggression. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I win the game right now. It's a nice turn 4 win. We'll take that. Yeah, turn 4 win. Even able to use our removal spells through our Thalia, thus justifying my decision even more. Cool. Pretty good. Pretty good. Alright guys, well that's gonna do it for today's video. I'm gonna not recommend this deck, mostly because this format just seems so hostile to creature decks, and to just this kind of aggro deck in general, really. There's just a lot of cards in this format that are just like, oh, you played that, I lose. So I can't say I really recommend crafting this deck, but if you've got the cards, it's going to win you some games pretty quickly, as hopefully today's video has suggested. Like, you will do your dailies in 10 minutes if you're running pretty hot. So, on that regard, I could recommend it, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure I'm ready to return to Standard yet. It still just doesn't seem like the format to me. I have to question why I'm not just playing Explorer every time I boot up this this format, I think, because it's just so much more interesting to me. I guess it's to each his own kind of thing, right? But yeah, I mean, Explorer's just a place to be. It's just so much more interesting. But if you did enjoy today's content and you want to see some Explorer content, because I'm probably going to return to that, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Also Brawl content as well. I'm not going to stop playing Brawl. Be sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and all that jazz really helps the channel a great deal. Gonna end it off here. Take care and have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace.